ago, back in 2012, you know, electronic books and mobiles topped the list. And these came from the Horizon Report. Does anyone read the Horizon Report regularly or know about it? Well, no, you do. So it's one tool. It's been around for over a decade, and it's one way that we in the Office of E-Learning and Innovation at Tri-C used to probably still do keep in touch with what's going on. And I'm going to pass around a copy here of this article and the other one that came out in 2011. So electronic books and mobiles here, and there's another one, mobile apps, and here it is, a little hard to see here. Mobile apps and cloud computing top that list. But we can compare that to what we're talking about later today. And so Dr. Dahl, I'd like to say a few words about him. I think you know from his bio, he's got degrees from Youngstown State, Kent State, Capella, and he's worked at Tri-C as the Assistant Dean of the Office of E-Learning and Innovation. That's at Tri-C. And, I think a lot about his last name. I don't know if you thought about that. So, what kind of person would have a last name like Dahl, So, we don't always call him that at Tri-C. I've heard him called other things. Like
you could repeat.
One thing, reflecting an interest that he has, I've heard him called Dr. Data. And another name I've heard that might make you laugh, instead of calling him Dr. Dahl, I've heard him called Dr. Excitement. So with no more delay, let's give a nice round of applause. And
I was at Kent State. I had an accounting class, and my professor says, he gets to me and this other guy, and he says, okay, what are your real names? What do you mean? He says, his name's Joe Normal, and your name's Chuck Dahl. Joe Normal was my neighbor, too.
Oh, my gosh.
So, anyways, yeah. Sharp and dull. Well, there was a woman I used to work for the Higher Learning Commission in Chicago. That's the folks that accredit all of our schools. And I worked with a woman named Pretty. The last name was Pretty, and she's a consulting firm, Pretty Doll or Doll and Pretty. So we just left it go. What I thought I'd talk about tonight is whatever I needed to get a free meal. So that's one of the interesting things about technology is the idea that it's become so ingrained that we don't realize it's technology. For example, this presentation, it's not on a hard drive, it's not on a flash drive, it's in a cloud-based system called Present. So if the internet goes down, we don't have a presentation. But what's happening is something like this. Are people using technology, or is all of this so integrated that even a 79-year-old woman, my mother, who never graduated from high school, uses technology on a regular basis? I find it actually bizarre. And it's so seamless. You don't even realize you're using it. And when we talk about cloud-based technologies, I always have people say, I don't know what the cloud is. I don't know what SaaS is. And I said, do you have one of these? Every now and then you get that message that says you need to update. And the most amazing thing is when I got my 6, I didn't get the TV, I got the 6. My wife has the TV, the 6 Plus. When I got it, I said, okay, are you going to move my data over? Plug it in and move it over. He says, no. Just get into Apple, and reload it. So it's pretty amazing. So we've got SaaS, we got virtualization, we got cloud-based services. And when you don't think you're using those, you've got your Fitbit. Who's got a Fitbit on them? See, I knew. My wife has the Garmin because her husband was too cheap and got the Garmin off of a coupon. iWatch and your phone. So And without even going far, you got Twitter, you were talking about that already. Twitter, big data, analytics, microblogs, micro-learning, text, which is getting to be old, chat, Instagram, Snapchat, MOOCs, plug for Tri-C, we built the first dev ed MOOC in the country. iMessage, Facebook, link with LinkedIn, MySpace, adaptive learning, network agnostic designs. That's not about drinking, that's bring your own device. Companies and colleges are now talking about creating what they call network agnostic services, so that you come in with a Mac, which makes me happy, or any device that you can connect in. So, as we talk about these things, we're really talking more about than any other time. You know, when I grew up, and we didn't have a lot of these things, right? But we didn't really connect. We used things. We got to a computer. You know, I remember punch cards. Nobody here remembers those. Where you go with a stack of cards and put them in the computer and try to program.
I remember dropping them.
Oh, yeah.
You don't know how many stories I've heard of that. You got that stack. I gotta run.
Yeah, you just run out of the building.
That's when you change your major, right? But now, you know, people talk about all these things. They pick these things up. You go to a meeting and, you know, somebody's always checking something out, talking to somebody. Tonight, just on my way here, I'm talking with my wife. I'm calling my boss downtown. I'm setting up 3 meetings that they invited me to, and that's all after 5. During the day, I'm pretty pathetic because I have this on my desk, I got my iPad here, and I got my computer with 3 screens. And I'm not the only one that does that, because we're all always processing things. We've got a whole, I want to go back. Up the top, has anyone heard the content curation phrase yet? It's getting to be really, really big. In fact, there's a whole field coming out of that for digital curation, content curation, and that's just another fancy way of saying people that know how to put the right content together. But out of this digital age and all these new technologies, you're developing language, vocabulary. Jeanette, I forgot to tell you, we had a young guy come to work for us one time. I know our age, everybody's young, but and he came in and I said to him, I don't want to be the man I was arguing with when I was your age. And so he schooled me a little bit, because he was really good. He used Twitter and he used what's that other one? Tumblr and all these other things. And he had really built a nice little business for himself. And I sat down and said, why would I want to use Twitter? Who cares if I'm going to the library tonight? Who cares that I went to see a movie? Who really cares? But he said, you don't do that. Because look at all these blogs you can connect with and all these people you can find. So I said, okay, I'm going to try this. And I tried it. Now I have 780 friends on Twitter. But you connect with other things that are going on in your industry. You don't have to share what's going on. So it started to make sense. Okay, what else makes sense? Other blogs and different things. I didn't have it up here. But I review about 20 blogs a day. You say, how do you do that? Because everybody thinks about reading things, we have to read the whole thing. And nobody does that anymore. I use a little tool called Feed. And this is bleeding into education. Here's one. Anybody know the phrase predictive analytics? It's my favorite buzzword right now. And when it comes to predictive analytics, and this is true for me, am I using or am I an item? How many of you folks go to Amazon? You are an item. You ever wonder what happens when you go into Amazon and they say, hey Chuck, you're back. You know what? Other people bought the same thing you bought and they like these things. And we all thought that that was just some clever way of finding what you do. No, that's predictive analytics. They collect everything that everybody does and it goes into this incredible algorithm that says, Chuck bought this, he'll probably buy this. And you know how many times they're almost always right? So we're either using it, we're using it in education. I did a little bit of technology, and I couldn't travel to India for a conference, so I did it on Skype. And had to get up at 3 in the morning. And we were talking about big data. And it's like everything we do now, you can almost predict to a degree that we could never predict years ago when all we did was take statistics in college, right? And none of us liked it. So now we're looking at taking that stuff and being predictive. We're taking the technology now to, and I want to show you this little video, to rather than make somebody go somewhere to do something, bringing it right in front of you. This video, maybe you've not seen, has anyone heard of augmented reality? It's really cool for video games, but this video, maybe you've seen. Training, yes, yeah, you've probably seen this one. Don't tell them. You don't really have to hear it. You'll get an idea what's going on. We've been looking at game-based technologies, even at community college, and gamifying a curriculum, because you can't keep people interested in lecturing to them. So if you watch what this guy's going to do, these, I don't know if those are Google classes or not, but so you see what he's doing? It's coming through his glasses. He's going to show him how to take everything apart. Keep in mind, this video is 2 or 3 years old.
Next set.
Remove intake duct.
When this came out, it was before Siri came out on the iPhone. So we were looking at this and saying, wow, that's...
Next step.
Outfit 1.
Next step.
Release screw.
Info tool.
This is the first time in music and everything's all working. I've shown this. I'm kind of excited to let it go through.
Remove fan cowl. Install fan
This
cowl
also
on
starts to
step A.
change the idea of writing instructions too.
Tighten screw.
I'll let it go through so you know he really puts it back together.
Install intake duct. Tighten 2 screws.
It's a training, yes. Right.
That's where education's going at college level. Because we're finding you get somebody that has grown up in this sound that age. You know, my son, he goes right to his computer before he goes to a book. I wish I could get him. And the wearable tech, my wife goes to bed with her Garmin. And she gets up once a week and she plugs it in and it tells her everything she's done for the week and exercise and this and that. And you see everybody doing it, and the Fitbits are getting so prolific that everybody in Tri-C, they got a watch or they got a Fitbit. They got an iWatch or a Fitbit now. The iWatch is kind of big. So what we're seeing in higher ed is this idea of compacted learning. And it's any number of ways. Now, one of the things you got to understand about higher education is PhDs make their money by coming up with new names for something that's been around for a long time. Because when they cease being PhDs, they go on to be consultants and go out with that new idea. So a lot of these things aren't new. MOOCs were new. MOOCs were a disruptive thing. They changed. There was one big problem with MOOCs. We did our Dev Ed MOOC, and folks said, oh, we've only got 18% of the students even getting through there. And then they look at the national numbers. The national numbers are like 5% of the people complete a MOOC. And if you think the way I went to school, you would think the idea of taking any type of education is what? Get through, get something that says you completed, right? That's not what MOOCs do. I have a son that works in software storage, I think he called it. And he's taken a MOOC on binary language. He never finished it. He took another one on game-based technology. He didn't finish it. He went in, he got what he needed. So what MOOCs are becoming, learn what you want, if you want, what part you want, and when you want, because there's no cost to it. You say, where's the business? Well, there's actually a business model that wraps around it. The latest phrase is micro-learning. And you've seen micro-learning. You've had it for years. We used to have little books that taught us little things. Sometimes we would learn programs by learning different things. Now it's getting a whole new life because we're building programs now that aren't exactly the same type of programs you would think of in college. So you've got competency-based, that's the next slide. And a competency-based program looks at a class as a series of skills you need, competencies, and it crosses over. So maybe you need writing for a psychology class, but you don't need to spend 12 weeks learning how to write. You need to learn how to write when you're taking psychology so you can write the report. So folks have said, well, let's put all this together. You can also break that out. Let's say all I need to do is remember how to put a grammatically correct sentence together. I can tell you I teach PhD and doctoral programs. I mean, PhD and master level programs, folks cannot put a grammatically correct sentence together, let alone write an APA, which is very boring. So you got micro-learning for when people need it. Communication, and the really interesting part is I bet everybody in the room has heard of all these. There's nothing new up here, except maybe DimDim. DimDim got bought out by Oracle, which bought MySQL along the way, all those great open source things. Adobe, if you have money to burn. Google Hangout, if anybody's not used that, it's really neat. It's pretty easy to use. I mean, the interesting thing about all these is face-to-face interaction is becoming digitized to digitized interaction. I mean, I always have to watch because I have 2 daughters that will come through FaceTime. And I'll be somewhere and it's ringing and there's a face on my phone all of a sudden, right? And it's grandkids say, hey Papa, what are you doing? Trying to work. But everyone's doing that so seamlessly. I can't even find 2 of my daughters if I don't go through Facebook message. They don't look at email. They do look at text. One looks at text, 2 of them will look at text. One won't touch Facebook. She's afraid it's going to end the world. My son goes through Facebook message because he's always on some type of social media. So if you think about this for a minute, when you start moving all these technologies from the office to the home, you know, FaceTime type technologies, we've been using those in the office for years. I was using them 10, 15 years ago in Chicago. Because when the price of fuel went up, we were at the higher in Chicago, we couldn't always afford to jump on a plane and go to Europe or go to Ireland or whatever. When we were talking to folks around the world, these things are not new. What's new is they're right in the palm of your hand now. I mean, this thing is more powerful than a computer 5 years ago. I can do everything on this, including connect with my database at work. I've got OneNote on here, I've got everything connected to everything, so that I can work 24 hours a day. Isn't that great? Technology is going to make us work less. We should shoot that person. Education is free in some areas now. There's a move, I don't know if you've heard of this, and I should have made that bigger. It's called University of the People. And what's interesting about University of the People is 2 things. One, it's accredited. So a lot of these free things aren't always accredited, so you don't know what to expect. These folks are accredited, no tuition. I had a friend that actually built a college on Facebook once. Some problems with doing that on Facebook. You see people putting MOOC degrees together, where you take MOOC classes and you go to somebody and they'll take this, this, and this, and they'll build it. Because what they're finding out is people don't always need the same skill sets we thought they need. For example, what do you think? Take a survey. Calculus or statistics?
Statistics.
Who says statistics? You win. Nobody needs to know calculus anymore, but you do need to know statistics. You need calculus if you're going to be doing that injection or taking blood out of me or something like that, because I need that to be right. But you don't necessarily need for other things. You need statistics for just about everything we do now. Everything's a statistic of some sort. You know, we were talking about game-based learning. We had proposed building a game-based model for a nursing program because we have students that have trouble calculating dosages. And we thought, wouldn't this be great to be able to calculate a dosage in a game and, you know, pump that into somebody and watch them blow up or die or something and right on the screen. You're not really hurting anybody. Yeah, we do it in chemistry. You know, students do chemistry labs online now. They're great. They can blow things up and nobody gets hurt. And you can play with it and mix it. And they do surgeries coast to coast now, so that's not even new technology. But the idea was, rather than use these dummies that we use, you know, it's not me, but these things on there, and you play with them and you do all this stuff. do something that actually has some implication. So what we're finding is the very definition, what we call education's changing. It's a fluid definition. If you came to me and said, what's the degree going to look like? And one of the problems we have right now is people like me in my profession, we don't like to move fast. We have a phrase that slows down progress called academic freedom. And along with contracts and tenure and everything else, it's tough to get things to move at a pace sometimes. And I found myself getting stuck in my ways too. But we've got all these fancy models. There's traditional, you know what traditional is, right? That's when, you know, you go in a room, you sit down, you get bored for an hour and a half and stay awake and take some notes. I actually had where's my Youngstown State pen? I had a man that used to work for Boeing that taught management science. Brilliant man. Couldn't communicate to humans. He would start on a whiteboard there, and he would write, he'd get to the second one. I'd be furiously taking notes. He'd do this. He'd stand there and go, well, you don't need any of this. Did you have Dr. Long?
No.
Oh, man, he was about 110. He loved to tell us about his 50-year-old wife. And he had a walker. He'd start at the door. He'd come in, and he'd get to the podium, and the younger guys in class would start slamming their books after 10 minutes. And, oh, time to go. Yeah, Dr. Long, class is over. And we'd leave. That's sort of endemic of what's happening in education, though. We're stuck with some of these old models that just don't work. So you have, yeah, sort of says, wow, that wasn't the best thing to say about YSU education, was it? So you have online. I mean, I got my doctorate online. HighFlex, which is, I'm doing one of these now, and it's kind of interesting. You got flipped classrooms, which just make a whole lot of sense. You know, we always think students are going to go home and do work, right? Nobody does homework. I didn't do homework. I didn't take a book home after 8th grade. So a flipped classroom says we're going to do all that homework in the building. You go home and watch the lecture and find out how you're going to do it. You come back here and we're going to do it in class, and that's where you get your grade. There's blended, hybrid. CBE stands for competency-based education. We like acronyms in higher ed. You got cohort-based modes, and I'm sure somebody's going to come up with something new. There's a guy from Harvard that wants to blow up everything. And there's this. That's my high school graduation picture. It's funny, but look at the bottom line. What does privacy mean anymore? I had a woman apply for a job. The person that she gave me as a reference was no longer at the company where she said he was. So don't call him, right? And go to LinkedIn. Yes, he's at a new place. Find him, call him.
You did.
You know, I get, when folks send in applications, I go straight to LinkedIn. I'm in LinkedIn, I look at your recommendations. You know, do you have anything there that's pertinent to the job like you said you did? So you're doing your resume, and then there's your online resume. This whole idea that you know, just type Google your name sometime and see what you've done. It's pretty bizarre, the information you can get that's free and that people think they have a right to see or a right to put out there. I mean, 40 years ago, you'd have to go to the library. You know, I sold insurance when I was in my 20s. I had to pay $1 to go to the post office to find out the forwarding address for somebody. Now I just get online and get on one of the white page sites or something to find out where somebody is. To tell you how easy that is, I got hit. I have a 2006 Matrix, which is not worth much money now, except to me, because it's got 200,000 miles. I got hit on Harper Road. Coming off the freeway, getting down to Harper, the guy hit me. He had just totaled out a car, so you know, I said, hey, don't clear for much damage. Here's my name. I drove off. I was all shook up, and here there was a lot of damage. An exhaust system cost over $2,000, and the guy didn't want to call me back. You know, silly me, didn't call the police, didn't do everything you're supposed to do. And so I knew his insurance company had his driver's license number, and they said, well, we can't help you because we don't have his address. I said, wait a minute. It's on the phone. I Googled his address, where he lived, I knew where he worked, I knew how much he made. I knew his wife's name, got a picture of his house that I could take in case someone go visit. I called his insurance company back. I said, here's where he lives, here's his name. They started the claim. They gave me the claim number. They paid the bill. So he thought he was going to get out of it because he thought I was trying to gig him for a whole new exhaust system. I wasn't. I just wanted my car running like it did before. It's all free information. You could not do that before the internet, for one. You couldn't do that 30 years ago. You were stuck. Somebody leaves, you didn't file a police report, shame on you. Not anymore. I mean, this is your new resume I was talking about. I tell students this all the time. Believe it or not, you still get students in college that are afraid of social media. And they're afraid of it because they think your identity is going to get stolen and whatever. And they don't do electronic banking or anything because of why? Their identity is going to get stolen. So I have somebody take out a check. I said, you know what? With that check, I can recreate you in about 5 minutes. Because I got your name, I got your address. I'll probably ask you for your driver's license number to validate that check. I've got your routing number for where reserve bank it goes to, and I've got your bank account number. And with that information, all I got to do is create a social security number for you. It's really easy. And then I create an income for you, say $200,000-$300,000. And then I go buy a house on that, and I default on it, and I take the fee that I got for creating that loan. I make a whole lot of money off you. You're looking for another field of employment. A lot of those folks lived in Solon, by the way. You know those real nice housing developments, Signature 1 and Signature 2, and there's one in Glen Willow. I lived in one in Glen Willow. There were 5 people who went to jail, 5 different companies. And they created all these incredible ghost companies. It's always amazing how really smart people do really dumb things. So what we're really doing with all this, right? You're managing information, but we have another name for that information. We call it our lives. I mean, I think this, for me, sometimes it gets a little bit scary. I do a lot of books on Kindle and iBooks. You know, I'm the one that goes to church and I've got my phone out there rather than anything hardcover, right? And the scary thing is, what if the cloud goes down? What do I do with my books? I got my Hawthorne collection at home and I can see that. But what happens? But this is where everything's going. Did you know in 2016, will be the last year you'll ever buy a copy of Microsoft Office that you'll put on your computer. 2017 it'll be a cloud. Anybody use Office 365? That's like the worst cloud-based email.
It's a nightmare.
I've got an account with Upper Iowa University, and I got another one at the University of the Rockies. And I'll sign into my Upper Iowa and the Rockies will pull up sometimes. So they've got this incredible problem with Bleed. And this is the company that tells us we have to be afraid of virus. I think they create the virus. But it's all going in the cloud. You'll be paying a service fee. So rather than pay $350 to put that hard copy on your computer, you'll pay maybe $5 a month. And naturally, they'll want to take it out of your account automatically every month. So make it convenience. We just switched to Progressive last night. And the only way they would let me start with Progressive was to automatically come out of my checking account. I hate that because it's almost impossible to stop it when you want to stop it. But everybody's doing it. You're going to find Microsoft's going to do it. That way they can do what? Well, if you got an iPhone, you know you got an upgrade that came out this week, right? And iOS, whatever version 6 something. And the beauty of it is now, you don't even have to upgrade in the morning. You can upgrade later. You don't upgrade tonight. And it automatically upgrades. And all it's doing is upgrading, right? It's just upgrading your stuff, right? Processing all that information from everything you've done on that phone. Maybe you're using Chrome and you've allowed Chrome to track everything so they can predict where you're going to go and sell that information. Maybe you're on Safari. Maybe you're on any of those other 25 apps or 50 apps that you think you absolutely have to have, and all that information goes back to the folks that have it. They sell that. So everything you get free, there's somebody making a business model off that on the other end. Anybody played 2048 yet? Did you get to 2048?
Oh, yeah.
How many times? Did you go higher than 2048?
Yeah.
How high?
That's just whatever the next doubling is.
I had somebody double that once. Still trying to do it. My wife always knew when I was playing it because she'd be talking to me. You're playing that game again, aren't you?
It is addictive.
Now she's playing Sim on her phone, so we'll be sitting there and she'll, yeah.
I played Sim.
She's got her empire. She got like 250,000 people in her city. And last night, oh, I got an airport.
I haven't been able to find the airport yet. It's very expensive.
I mean, she's taking care
I'm
of
too
all
busy
the.
buying buildings and other quadrants.
And she always tells me she's working. I think she's playing. So, I mean, we network. who would have thought that we could build a whole image of ourselves online? You know, a couple of years ago, Jeanette was still working in our department. Last 3 years, I've had a boss a year. And when we got the last one, the one before that, I was up for both jobs. And when we got the last one, I thought, well, maybe it's time to rebrand myself. You know, new haircut or something. And how do you rebrand yourself? It's really easy. You publish in blogs. I've changed my LinkedIn page. I've got 2,043 very close friends on LinkedIn. I get offers through LinkedIn all the time. If I didn't love the area, I'd be somewhere else. Every week somebody says, hey, last week it was Australia. And I don't like snakes, so that wouldn't work. But I built a whole new brand of me through LinkedIn, through Twitter. You know, if I publish on this one site, you know, hey, look at me, put it out there, right? I share things. I've created this network, and I've created a whole different brand, and there's nothing different about me. There's a different me that's out there on the internet. My kids, I was telling you about FaceTime. Well, I didn't even talk to my daughter, Tiffany. She's been in town for a week from Nashville, and I text with her and everything else, but I haven't talked to her yet. And tonight she's trying to find her other sister, so we can bring yet more grandkids up to visit. They all go home, that's the great part. We exercise with them. You know, it's not just Fitbit and Garmin. Before that, you had the iPod where you could buy that thing, connect it to your sock, get on to your running. iPod was already doing that before those folks did. They just found a way to put it and make it cool and put all kinds of neat colors. We post, we comment, we tweet, we post to LinkedIn. And if you think that's not scary, artificial intelligence is already here. Anybody see that movie? Ex Machina. Oh, you should see it. You saw it?
Oh, yeah.
I saw it twice. It was just as scary the second time. It's a really good movie because it's really true. Because we actually have robots. You can buy robots. They have not just Roomba. They're actually robots that will do cleaning for you and do all these other things that you got 5 or 10 grand you don't need. So this is really close. I mean, part of this. Did anybody ever play Yahoo Chess? Yeah, yeah. How far did you get? Okay. We were probably playing each other. Thought we were good, right?
Yeah.
And then
Very humbling.
Especially when you get those younger kids on there and then they want to talk trash.
Yeah.
That was the strangest thing. You're playing chess, it's like you're in a basketball game and somebody wants to start talking trash to you. Oh, that was a dumb move. You're learning to play chess. Yeah, so, but I mean, that's an early phase of artificial intelligence, and just there are 64 to the 64th power moves in chess. Well, chess is actually a finite game. If you can finitely imagine 64 to the 64th power number of moves. You know, 8 by 8, 64 number of blocks. So actually, that's a very, very easy program to do. Wozniak, Steve Wozniak, that was one of the first things he programmed on an Apple computer years and years ago. Artificial intelligence is actually a whole lot scarier than that. It's when it starts actually thinking for you. You know, you got all these sci-fi folks, and we think they're crazy, but they're not. I mean, remember Star Trek? They're always putting that thing to your skin. You got the EpiPen, right? Star Trek had these stupid little discs they always put in a computer. We ended up with 3.5 floppies, right? They were talking to the computer in Star Trek 6. You get where I'm going, right? Star Trek tells you all about life. You know, he picks up the mouse, he wants to talk to the computer. Well, if I hit too many buttons too fast there, Siri wants to know what I want to do. I don't want to be bothered. Siri wants to know what I want to do. And this is going to go even farther than that because the new version of Siri actually does start to think. It seems like it's thinking, you know, what's it really? It was processing really, really fast. But when computers start learning how to think, I don't know. I don't know where that's going, but I can tell you where we're at. I think technology, we could pretty much say it's ubiquitous, right? It's everywhere. I mean, when you can take a 79-year-old, 4'10.5" woman that never finished high school, and she has friends all over the world now, and I have to look at all these friends because she prints out her emails and pictures. She's got a digital camera. she's got a printer, she's got all these things she connects, and she's got a phone like this now. And she's into the digital age, right? So it's everywhere. How many websites have you gone to recently where you can't find a phone number or an address? Any web designers in the room? You? No. Early web design, what we used to do? Think about this for a minute. You think about when we designed early web pages, I did a lot of web design early 90s. I used to work at Myers College too before they went out of business. I didn't put them out of business. But early web design, at the bottom of the website, you put contact information. You always put an address and a phone number. You look at websites now, it's not there. You got to search, then you got to click the contact us. Well, really, what do you need? And you dial up on the phone, right? Well, press 1 for this. Okay, you press 1. What part of that do you need? You press and you press and you press, right? And when you get down to the actual human, the human says, you've given them your name, you've given them where you live, your account number, your firstborn, and you get through all that, and what do they say? Oh, could you give me your name?
Oh, yeah.
And, I'm in my 50s. I said, look, didn't I just give you all that? Where did that information go? Why am I giving that to you? Then none of that information's on websites anymore. The newer websites, and folks a lot younger than me, they're not taught to build that on a website. Why? Because everything on the website is built to be self-contained. Or you do IM, right? Instant message. Some of those IMs are AI. They're early AI. You're not even talking to somebody. You're talking to a computer. That computer can process your question because it has a knowledge base and it's got a number of different possible responses that it can shoot back. As it goes down, predictively, you eventually get down to an answer. It's not true AI. So you're not talking to people. And when you go to websites now, those websites are designed to keep you from talking to people. Because people have costs, right? If I pay you, I've got a load on top of that pay because I've got to give you benefits usually, right? Unless I employ lots of part-time people or ship it all off seas. But even there it's coming up. I have a friend in India who is now having programming done in the States because it's now cheaper to come to the United States for programming. Lesson in global economics. Next time you hear somebody say, oh, we got to close the borders. No, keep the borders open because guess what? What goes around comes back around in global economics. Because what happened in India? They saw hey, look what they're doing over there in the United States. I want nicer clothes, I want a car, I want all these things. So he was paying his folks for about 5 years in a row, almost a 40% raise every year. Plus they had health care they had to pay completely. Plus they had education, all those things they say we can't do here. Anyways, not getting political. So what gets read is aggregated and succinct. My youngest kids grew up thinking that the answer to a question meant Google search. And the word Google. I grew up, I had to use a dictionary. I had to use a card catalog, which I hated, right? When I did my master's at Youngstown State, I had to go to the library and go in there and look at the card catalog, this and that, find these things and actually read them. When I did my doctorate, I was on a train in Chicago. I'd load up thousands of documents and I'd go through and I'd parse, I'd find words, I'd highlight, I'd search. Everything is now aggregated. Chunk. And if you're thinking that we're still going to have all these incredible instruction manuals and things like that we had when I was growing up, the VCR manuals are the best, right? It's not going to happen. My son got, what is it he got? Oh, Xbox One. Didn't come with instruction. You just keep plugging things into it, finally works, and then you go online and get everything you need. And for him and his friends, I don't know if you have grandkids or kids like this, it's the most bizarre thing to watch kids play. 3 kids in my living room, right? And they're playing, we got a Wii U and an Xbox One because, the baby's spoiled rotten. So, they're playing, one kid's got an iPad, one kid's got his phone, and my son's playing the Xbox, or the Wii U. They're not even talking. And they're all 3, they're enjoying themselves on 3 different devices, texting up my Wi-Fi. But when they get stuck, guess what they do? They go somewhere online. They use cheats. Cheats was a bad thing when I was younger, right? You don't cheat. All my son does is look for cheats when he finishes a game. What are cheats? They're ways to get into different features in the game. So he got through with Arkham Knights, Batman Arkham Knights, and he's looking for all the cheats. There's like 100 and some cheats you got to open up to finish the game. They keep you playing. How's he find those? Well, guess what? He goes to YouTube. There's all these people that make money off YouTube, and they have all these really cool things, and every now and then you got to watch because they use some language you don't want your kids hearing. But the kids are addicted to these, and they just go back and forth to these things. Tech gadgets are designed to be used without instructions. Apple started this. Steve Jobs, when he built the iPad doesn't come with instructions. Apple makes the coolest boxes to put their stuff in. I mean, it's worth it buying Apple products just to get the box. But the whole idea was you should be able to take it out of the box and figure it out. That's how everything. iPods like that, iPhones like that. You don't get instructions from any of those. Other people are starting to buy into that. Of course, Microsoft buys into it because they look at it as saving money. They don't always look at it the right way. But you find people then, where the money comes in is not necessarily features, it's all these experts that are on YouTube. Because you know where you make money on YouTube, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Ads, people want to advertise on their click-through. Now you go into YouTube and say, wait 15 seconds for this ad. So, the more you pay for the ad, the more seconds you get on somebody else's YouTube. That's where the experts are coming in. They're YouTube, they're their own blog, they're various other areas where you can click through to get to them. So what people are doing now, everybody's writing for certain features rather than writing to tell you how to do it. That's like you totally flipped the script on everything. And it's all because of technology. The agility in technology is only going to get worse. If you don't like change, it's going to be rough because things are moving so fast. We have devices, we don't even know how they work now. When I was growing up, we had a computer. You could build a computer, right? Now they're talking about building computers out of bacteria. How am I going to build a bacteria computer unless I get sick? And this constant merging with life. I mean, you can't fight it because it's there. You can't fight social media. Why? Because maybe at work they communicate with Twitter. Maybe they're using something like Doodle Poll to set up a meeting, right? You don't want to use any of that, well, you're not going to make the meeting. Every meeting I set up with the school anymore, if I got more than 5 or 6 folks, we're using Doodle Poll. Folks aren't using email. Email is for old people, the kids tell me. And it's Facebook messages. It's something else. Snapchat and Instagram are new surprises to me. Somebody's telling me about that. What does that do? Oh, that's so you can't trace it. Oh, wonderful. Now that I know that you got to spy on your kids' Facebook sites, you go and create Snapchat, so whatever you did that you didn't want them to find out, you can get rid of it quickly, right? My one daughter didn't even know her daughter had an Instagram account. What's Instagram? She, oh, here, Papa, it's all this stuff. You need some way to consume all that information. The way we did it, the way I did it, the Youngstown Vindicator, my dad every Sunday would start at the back, read to the front. That's how we did things. Blue collar way of reading the newspaper, back to front. And if we needed something, we got a book. Now, I do like 4 or 5 marketing blogs, I do another 4 or 5 blogs on new technology, and do you really think I read those 2,000 and 3,000 word articles every day? There's a tool called Feedly, F-E-E-D-L-Y. Really cool tool. If you ever use Google, what they call the Google Reader? You look like you use Google Reader. Google Reader was the best Google tool in the world. It allowed you to collect all these blogs, newspapers, and everything you wanted to read, and it told you what percentage you read, so it gave you statistics. So you could manage your consumption, sort of like a Jenny Craig diet, right? Look at what you're eating and what you want to eat more of. And you can do a little bit of that on Feedly, but it's not as good as Google Reader, but the best part is it's free. And so you put all these blogs in there. I used to follow the New York Times, but then they got a bit uppity because they only let you have 10 free articles a month. The Post does the same thing. But I follow NPR, the Clevelander, and they'll put abstracts in. So you got 10 to 20 word abstracts. So I'll go through this in the morning. Yeah, don't want to read that. Yeah, want to come back to that. Maybe I move something to Diego. Anybody use Diego? D-I-I-G-O. It's pronounced Diego for some reason. I don't know why. It's a place where you store what? Your bookmarks. So I want to read that later. I want to share. I lost my signal. There we go. I want to share. I'm going to put it here. And then from here, I can share it with Jeanette. Hey, Jeanette, if I did it right, I've got this. Why don't you take a look? I go through that every day, and I'll go back and read something. I do the Plain Dealer online too, even though their blog is active. If you want to know how to build a bad blog, go to cleveland.com. Absolutely the worst blog in town, because you're always accidentally hitting something. So I'm trying to be quiet in the morning while I'm eating breakfast, and I accidentally hit one of those videos, and I forget my volume's all the way up. It's sort of like the joke somebody had years ago. I got this message from somebody, and I can't remember what was in the message, but when you open the message, the video, it was like full volume on your computer. Hey everybody, this guy's watching porn!
Oh
It kept
my
going, you
God.
couldn't stop it. Well, that's what happens on Cleveland.com. You don't watch porn, but I mean, you hit these things and you can't get off it. You gotta keep going back. But you have to find some way to keep up. I have to keep up. If I don't keep up, 2 cubes down, they're gonna be eating my job. Because they're gonna know what new technology's out there, what, all the new acronyms. Like with us, we deal with things like LMSs and CMSs and LTIs and all these things. It used to be called building blocks and application interface and APIs. Just staying up with the acronyms. And some of that I have to keep, and some of it I don't. Marketing, I'm not a marketer, but I teach marketing. So I need to keep up with that so I can have my students keep up with that. You've got to know your changing audience and their consumption habits. It doesn't do me any good to know you if I don't know how you're going to consume the information. One of you might want to read this 1,000-word article I have coming out this week, a little plug for me. And some of you might say, I'll talk to somebody else. I'll look at the abstract I see when I look at my Feedly account. Everyone is, especially younger folks, are developing ways of managing their consumption. If you think of information like food, I mean, we're in a service-based economy, right? Had Youngstown not gone downhill and 40,000 people left because the steel mill's not out of business, I would have been a third-generation machinist. Thank God I wasn't, because I just don't get into that detail work. I'm not real good. I'm Tim Allen. But since we're in this service economy, since we're writing for these folks that read these things, since we know we have 12-year-old kids that are going to grow up to be chunked, soundbite people, I've got a 32-year-old, well, no longer, I guess, when you get divorced, is the stepkid still your stepkid? I don't know. But anyways, he never read anything. He got his news from CNN, Fox, which really is the news station, and a few other places. And they would read the sound bites. And if you look at the way those websites are built, how are they built? A little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit. They're not built for me. They're built for the younger generation that just wants to know just a little bit, which is why we all get in arguments now. But that said, this is one of my favorite quotes. I don't know if you've ever seen this before. I think somebody else said it besides Deming, but Deming gets all the credit for it. Deming said it's not necessary to change. Survival's not mandatory. But if you want to survive in this age of technology, if you want to continue to work, if you want your kids to work, if you want your associates to work, I mean, look how many people are working at home. You ever eat in Tremont? And all those folks seem to always be at the restaurants all day long. They're all working at home. I mean, I was talking to folks from Seeds of Literacy about a board position. And this guy's an accountant. He's got his accounting firm. He comes in, he's dressed in jeans and a shirt. Yeah, I work at home. He hangs around all morning. He goes down, gets a cup of coffee, maybe grabs some lunch, maybe do a little bit of work in the afternoon. People are working flexible hours. Why is that? Because you know what? Maybe I'm not a morning person. Maybe I want to get up at 1 a.m. and work. I had a web guy in Chicago. I put this little widget on his computer. I knew what he built. He wanted to go to North Carolina with his girlfriend. I said, fine, go. He worked more while he was there on the project I needed to work than he did when he was in the office. These are the new work styles that tie back to the information, that tie back to what? The technology we all have to use. So it's Twitter. It's working when I want to work. It's being agile with new technology. It's when that person comes in. Anybody using PingPad this week? Didn't work. New app that came out. The PingPad was supposed to allow you to bring your chats, your note boards, your discussion, to put all of it in one application. Tumblr's trying this, and a lot of folks are trying it. I couldn't get it to work on my iPhone. I got to find some time. But it's the latest thing now is bringing all these things. We have all these other apps, and there are apps that say, wait a minute, you can't do 15 things. Do 15 things in one. And that's the next generation coming out on technology, is how do we now, since we can't do 15 things at once, how do we do 15 things in one? And if you miss that, you know, what will happen? One of two things will happen. Either it won't catch on and you didn't miss anything, or it becomes the way everybody does business. You'll go to work with a client, a new job, or somewhere else, and say, oh, by the way, we use this. What's that? Well, this is an aggregator. What's an app aggregator? Well, we pull all our stuff in here. So our training's in here, our meetings are in here, we schedule in here, take notes. You know, I use OneNote with a lot of folks. So my boss and I just create a OneNote tab, and that way I don't have to talk. So go check my OneNote, you want to know what I'm doing. Everything happens. I put an email and everything. I'm using that as a pseudo aggregator. Microsoft product, which means it doesn't always work well. But if you miss that curve, what happens? So you'll get caught behind. And as much as we don't always like to try to stay up and always have to read all those things, what I've found, you find a way to do it, you find a way to slow down so you can speed up. If my 79-year-old mother can keep up on things, when she doesn't keep up, you know she calls, right? Not my brother in Little Rock, Arkansas. Me. I have to go down and be her help desk. But she is still trying to keep up on these things. She's playing apps, she's playing games, she's using the tools that are out there. If someone like that is using it, go all the way back to my son, who doesn't understand why he would need a dictionary or a calculator or anything. Where's your iPad? What do you mean? I need a calculator. Well, here, I bought you this calculator. No, give me the iPad. Right here. Here's a dictionary right here. I keep them both open at the same time, so if I get stuck, I go back and forth. If I can't figure that out, where do I go? Well, I go to Khan Academy, and I get this little, you know, he does everything on there for me. I can learn it. It's all in the iPad. And if we miss that, if you miss that curve, you'll pay a big price for it. And I've been on both ends of that, because every now and then I fall asleep with some of that stuff, and you fall asleep for a minute, and you wake up, and somebody says, have you heard of this? I said, no, we talked about it. And you got to go back and get caught up. Anyways, hopefully that was something you could use. It would justify the free lunch that I got tonight. That's not a bad picture. That's the picture I took for India. If you ever have anything you want to kick around to me, that's my Twitter. I didn't put my LinkedIn up there, but you can find me on LinkedIn. I post all kinds of stuff. If you have anything you want to ask me about, you want to kick around, you want to say give it a haircut or whatever, feel free to drop me an email. You got real lucky. Tri-C forgot that I was supposed to come down here tonight, or I'd be handing you out all sorts of paper, because we still like to put your tax dollars to work and convince you that we're printing useful things. So I got out without all that material. So thank you for your time. I really enjoyed talking to you. And if I can ever be of any help, drop me an email.
Thank you.